We're here for a great conversation today with Chris Deal, one of my good friends and someone that you know. But Chris, I'd love for you to just introduce yourself and then tell us what you do at the chamber.
Mike, thank you for having me here today. Chris Deal, of course, President and CEO of the Duncan Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce is a organization designed to be the voice of the business community. And so most of the time, Sandy and myself, we spend the day advocating for others and trying to connect others to the people they need to connect to help move our community forward. It's really about in a world of scarce and limited resources is figuring out how best to take those resources, mobilize them, and get them into the hands of the people that need them so we can move our community forward. So most of our days are spent actually trying to help our community move forward, particularly our business community.
Yeah, you do such a great job with that. It's like wherever we go and there's a business function, you're not likely just in front. You're likely in the back or in the front greeting people like the chamber breakfast and, oh, welcome. Glad you're here. How can I serve you? We got water, we got orange juice, coffee, whatever you need, directing traffic. And I don't mean getting out of the way, but certainly taking a step back. And I think that's been very influential to me as a leader to know you don't have to be in front all the time to be the leader. And especially in leadership, Duncan is really the first place that I got to
Yes,
spend
that is the first place.
time with you. And it was great because you were always like, everything was always set up and you were always there and you always had a smile on your face, which there are days for me. Okay, I got to give Mike a little pep talk when he gets out of the car to have that smile on your
Isn't it
face. But
amazing how even a crooked smile like mine, though, it can make a difference in a dark day. Even myself, when I'm having a difficult day, I'll sometimes go and just look in the mirror and smile at myself just to set the tone. Because people you always talk about want to be seen, but they also want those that see them to at least smile and acknowledge the fact that we're all working together in our lives and we're all connected in some way.
yeah,
Coming to the chamber, I think probably one of the greatest things I ever learned from my dear friend Sandy Stewart, who I've had the privilege of working with for 12 years. She taught me that her and her husband Russ, that really it's all about relationships.
yeah,
And in order to really lead well, oftentimes you have to just step back and let people have the opportunity to bloom, to actually grow, and not try to control them, but try to give them the tools they need to move their lives forwards. And so, as individuals at the chamber behind the scenes, it's actually a better position to give you and allow others to take the lead. I give others the tools necessary for them to feel a sense of worth, but also to see what their potential is, because I think we're always surprised when we allow people a little latitude that the decisions they make often are really good.
absolutely. I love that. Not just leading the witness, Your Honor, but
Yeah.
giving them
Yeah.
kind of the lane to do what they do. I think you guys do a fabulous job at that. And I think you do such a good job of that that a lot of times people don't realize that you've set us up for success in that way. I think that's one of the, I don't mean it's a secret sauce, but I think it's definitely an art that you can tell you guys have worked together for quite a while and can finish each other's sentences. But one of the things that I think there's a lot of things that people know about you because you've been here for a while, you've been in Duncan for a long time. But I want to ask you a couple of questions as we get
Yeah, I
rolling.
think I knew William Duncan when he started his store. I'm just,
Hey, Billy
I,
Duncan. No,
I feel
just
like
kidding.
I've been that way. Yeah, Billy.
That's great. So, a couple of quick questions for you. Some of your favorites, because I think I've had coffee, we've had lunch, we've had lots of conversations, and I've had the fortunate opportunity to ask you lots of questions, but I haven't asked you any of these questions. So, just five questions that are about your favorites, just to help people get to know Chris a little bit
All
better.
right.
What's your favorite color?
My favorite color really traditionally is probably blue. I mean,
Yeah.
even when I was a younger child, there was just something about the sky. And of course, the sky to me is representative of opportunity, this expansive that we really don't know. So blue, I don't know. It was just always my favorite color.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, I probably have a red moment or need green to calm down or something. But no,
Oh,
blue.
I love that you're wearing a blue shirt and the
Yeah.
frame over your shoulder is blue. There's a blue. I'm not saying we knew that was
Well, you
happening,
have a
but
blue shirt on as well.
yeah. So, what's your favorite daytime drink?
I am a coffeeholic. I mean, It's
Mm,
coffee for whatever reason. I started working in the oil field, believe it or not, when I was 7 years old. And people that worked in the field back then, you didn't always have ice water, but
mm.
I observed these older guys with their thermoses and pour just a little bit of coffee out in that cup and they'd sip it through the day, which made them maybe on a hot day perspire more. But it actually had this cooling. But there was always this comfort. I didn't realize, of course, it was like a drug of caffeine. But from that point on, coffee was just always my drink of choice. And you know, I've been guilty of drinking coffee before I go to bed. But it's just probably, and I'm not picky. I'll try anything that you want to bring me or anything someone says, try this. I mean, no matter whether it's a latte, an espresso, I'm learning all those things now, but there's nothing for me like just a good cup of black coffee.
What I think you just said is when you were a kid, you saw grown-ups that you looked up to drinking
Yeah.
coffee. And did you what how old do you remember how old you were ish when you had your first drink of coffee? Was it around 7?
Oh, yeah. I was actually working in Seminole, Oklahoma. I remember because I was always in trouble. I disappeared from the back of the truck. I was actually operating machinery at 7. Now, OSHA probably was happy about that. Every once in a while, my dad would look around and I'd be gone, disappear. And so I got in trouble that one day because I had it about all I could stand. I went up, I opened his thermos, I poured me some coffee. I'm sitting in the cab of the truck drinking coffee when I was supposed to do my job. So, yeah. So it was about 7 years old. Yeah.
That's awesome. My coffee I like coffee, but I like my coffee to be a certain color, and it's not
Oh, I
black, like,
understand.
it's some sort of a light caramely looking color. It's just
Oh,
fine.
I've been recently introduced to all those flavorings with Meridian coffee. I never was a huge fan of gourmet coffees, but
Yeah.
when Meridian came to town, I started trying it. And before even they came, my friend Sandy she actually is a coffee connoisseur too. And so I would try some. What was one? I think it was a caramel macchiato. We were somewhere, I don't remember, but it was heavenly.
Yeah.
So,
That's my coffee love language. I don't know if that's a thing, but caramel
yeah,
macchiato,
yeah.
that's
So
my
I'm,
jam for
I'm
sure.
good with any of them.
So your favorite drink is coffee. What's your favorite food to eat and to prepare? It might be the same, might be different. I don't know if you like to grill or if you like to cook, however you cook, whatever you like to cook, but what do you like to eat and what do you like to prepare?
Oh, wow. I'm the utilitarian eater working out in the field for years. It was basically something out of a can or
Mm,
peanut butter crackers or something like that. And I'm still guilty of standing over the sink opening a can of something to the chagrin of my wife, who's an excellent cook. Her mother, Debbie, my wife, and her mother, Annette, there was a restaurant in town called the Hickory House, and they were extraordinary creators of wonderful things for the palate. So I had cooked for years. I think the first time I cooked a Thanksgiving dinner by myself, I was 15. But it was always about serving others. When you're cooking for others, it seemed like by the time I would eat, it was cold. So I was still a utilitarian eater. But I think, as was pointed out to me by Sandy, probably the way I defined my eating habits for years was whatever my grandkids wanted to eat
mm,
was my favorite food. So whether it was pizza or Taco Bell, my diet seems to revolve around the people I'm having fellowship with at the time.
yeah,
So as far as me concerned, favorite eater, my favorite food in the world is cookies.
absolutely. Like, you can't go wrong with cookies, right?
There's not, like coffee, there's probably not a cookie that I won't try.
Oh, it's
Even if
fantastic.
you told me that kelp in it, I would have to try it. So,
Yeah, please don't bring me a cookie.
well,
God
it's a big
bless it.
thing now.
Yeah,
Everybody,
for sure.
for me, I don't know what it is about seaweed or whatever kelp is.
That's awesome. One of the things I love about you is you're constantly learning, constantly improving, constantly seeing, okay, how can I do this better? One of the ways I like to do that is by reading books.
Yes, you're a voracious reader, Mike. I've learned that about you. When
Also,
you were doing Duncan Leadership Community, I was just always fascinated with the books that you were reading.
I'm also very grateful to the good folks at Audible because sometimes I can read by someone reading it to me, right? But as you look back, what are two or three of some of the most impactful books that you've ever read? Some of your favorites.
Growing up, the way I did was a kid, there were a lot of banned books. And so any book that was banned, whether I really liked books as a kid that were written by Mark Twain and Dostoevsky. That's a Russian novelist.
Mhm.
And a lot of the things we see even today, if you've read a Dostoevsky novel, you realize we see those things in our world today. And he actually doesn't necessarily provide an answer, but he provided an out. So when I had time we around military folk, I read a lot of Dostoevsky, but Mark Twain was always an individual that, though he may be maligned in certain ways, he had this acute observational sense about him of even stating things that had shock value at the time, but it made a point in people's lives. And it looked at whether you realize he was against slavery, he was for women's rights, or those kinds of things. They're tucked in his books. But the three books that always I use to people when I'm just trying to be simple to know my mind is when I was younger, there was a man that I admired. We always have mentors.
Sure.
And this was a man that helped me get into a military academy. And I said, what's three books that I could just have that I could read that would help me? The first one was Meditations by Marcus Aurelius,
Mm.
which is the cognitive behavioral therapy I didn't know at the time. It's just this
Right.
neat little book that allows you to how you react to the situation around you is what's really important. You can't control the world, you can't control the situation, but if you can learn how to control your emotional response to something. So he said that's important. And he said, you're going to have to learn how to work and live. And he's the richest man in Babylon. It's a little pocketbook.
Mm.
And within it are tucked in all the things that I think Dave Ramsey took and made $1 billion empire out of was
Yeah.
this little book. The other one he gave me was Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. Approbation and praise, he told me that he felt that I was already good at, but if I wanted to get anywhere in life, it wasn't about who took credit for something. It's about that it got done and that people needed to be seen, let you say, needed to be lifted up, he said. And then I would add to that the Bible for me, particularly the words of Jesus. I have this thing, 4 words: love God, love people.
Yeah.
And for me, that is what keeps me steady, even when I'm frazzled, like I'll sometimes say I am. And as to whether I'm really frazzled or not, it's that I too, sometimes when I say that to like my friend Sandy, I want to be seen. Everybody wants to
Yeah.
be seen, everybody. And so to have a father in heaven for me was a big thing. So the Bible was big. And of course, the other books I mentioned, I guess there was probably four. But
Well, I mean, I think
I've read a lot of books, but my problem is, Mike, I probably read not one book at a time.
right.
So if you tell me I need to read about golf or I'll read parts of it, and I try to glean in just in a matter of time. And there's world for me and life has so many opportunities to experience things. And so for that, I mean, I've been accused of having 10 books open, at the same time.
Yeah.
And I'm not really good always on finishing books, particularly if it's Tolstoy's War and Peace. I don't think I've ever got finished. But
Uh,
it's about, for me, as a child, believe it or not, I had a speech impediment. I had trouble
mm,
talking and I had dyslexia. So I had trouble reading. So those are the two things that allow you to be a person that be able to learn. And so for me, it all became about developing a memory and learning things. And the only way I could figure out how to do that is my mother bought me a dictionary and said, read it. How
yeah.
do you read a dictionary? For someone that had the problems I had, you go into the bathroom, read it. You go in the bedroom and read it. You even try to recite these words outside. I remember when I was trying to spell architecture, it's art, you break things down. For me, I always wanted to know more. And my favorite book when I was in school, my mother went out on a limb and borrowed money to buy an encyclopedia. Actually, I'm so
Mm,
old that 55 years ago, you had encyclopedia salesman. And to learn how to read and memorize and stuff, I just started reading the encyclopedia.
hmm.
And so I'm a quirky person. I'm probably have a lot of oddities to me. What is it? Eccentricities. But a lot of that is just developed in how you see the world that was laid out in front of you and before you. And what are you going to do in your life to try to move forward? Are you going to just not do anything because you maybe have been held back in some area or not had opportunities? Or are you going to go ahead and just move forward and seek those things?
Yeah. I think that's so key. We all have opportunities to whatever.
Oh,
I
I
mean,
find myself wanting to flee all the time. Mike. That's just part of my personality. And sometimes it frustrates me, but I know that's just the weaker part. So if I could take my weakness and channel it into a strength,
I think from my perspective, you do that so well. And one of the things that I really think is impactful, it's been impactful to me. I started this new thing about a year ago. And I asked the question in our Duncan leadership community: when was the last time you
Learn
did
something.
something for the first
Yeah.
time? Yeah,
Yeah. I love
and
that.
and of course, my punchline was learning to tap dance. But I asked that question, and you said, "Mike, I learned something new every week," and I was like, "Every week?"
Yeah.
And we've had a couple of conversations about that. And I think maybe one of the reasons that you intentionally do try to learn something new every week is because like people don't know that you had those reading issues when you were younger. And then when you were able to overcome them, now there's nothing that you can't learn. And I think that's an incredible lesson. And it's something that, I mean, man, as a new business owner, there's stuff I'm learning all the time. Lots of ways not to do stuff.
Yeah.
But I love that you're going after, okay, how can I learn more about this? And all drains lead to the ocean. Solomon said there's nothing new under the sun. And I do see lots of ways where some of this stack of books or some of the books that you mentioned, they really do point back to the Bible for anybody who wants to see that. And some people don't, but I love that influences.
So lifelong learning, your wife, Gina, is a teacher, and really education is about teaching someone how to learn.
Yeah.
It's not really teaching them all this stuff we think, or like, I don't know, legislators think that it's all about a litmus test for a child, or teaching to the test, but really it's about giving someone the tools they need to learn, whether it be in Bible, or it be in school, or it just be in life, to be a lifelong word learner, to have a hunger for knowledge, to have a hunger for something. The only way that I've never been to Paris, but I can read everything about
Mm,
Paris. I don't know a lot about certain things, but if I want to expand my mind and expand my capacity, lifelong learning is, if you teach someone how to learn, then you've done a great thing. I remember when I was taking physics as a senior in high school, I went to my physics teacher one day just out of